Ma'am, we are live on YouTube also.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you,
Yes.
Abhinav. Yeah, we'll start. Is it all right if we start?
Yeah, please.
Good afternoon, dear friends. It is my privilege today to invite you all to today's webinar on the very interesting and very useful theme, systematic write-ups. I think first and foremost, we should start with a small prayer. Especially it is needed in these difficult and dark times. So Abhinav, will you please start with the Ganesh Vandana?
वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा।
Okay, thank you so much, Abhinav. That was wonderful. So now, first and foremost, I would like to invite the very dynamic Dr. Lakshmi Shrikhande. Do you have the PPT?
Yeah.
Okay, can you? Yeah, thank you so much. Dr. Lakshmi Shrikhande, she is Medical Director of Shrikhande Fertility Clinic. She is Chairperson Designate of ICOG. She is National Corresponding Editor Journal of OBGY of Indian Jogi. And she is National Corresponding Secretary of Association of Medical Women. She is a founder, patron, and president of ISOPAB Vidarbha chapter. She is chairperson IMS Education Committee. She is president Association of Medical Women Nagpur. She has received Nagpur Ratna Award at the hands of Union Minister Shri Nitin Gadkari. She has received Bharat Excellence Award for Women's Health. She has received Mehru Dara Hansotia Best Committee Award, the chairperson for HIV/AIDS Committee in 2007-2009. She has received appreciation letter from Maharashtra government for her work in the field of Save the Girl Child. She is President Menopause. She was President Menopause Society 2016-18, and she has publications 13 national and 11 international, and she has sensitized 2 lakh boys and girls on adolescent health issues. Welcome, Dr. Lakshmi. Please take over.
Please call me after 8 o'clock.
Thank you so much, Vidya, for that kind introduction. Very good afternoon to my respected seniors, teachers, dear friends, and colleagues. First and foremost, I must thank you all for bestowing me with this responsibility of Chairperson IMS Education Committee. I will do my level best to update myself and of course to update the knowledge of my fellow colleagues. Today is the opening activity of my committee and I need everyone's support, cooperation and blessings throughout my tenure of 2 years. And why we at IMS has chosen this theme, revisit systemic write-up. Friends, let me tell you that this is the brainchild of our dynamic IMS National President, Dr. Ambuja, because she feels that not only postgraduates, but also we all clinicians should know the art and craft of writing a research paper, how we should send our interesting case presentations for publications in the journals. So here we have chosen our Jogi, Editor-in-Chief Emeritus Dr. Suvarna Khadilkar, who will be telling us all the art and craft of writing a paper. Welcome, Dr. Suvarna Khadilkar. Our second talk is on understanding. Once we submit our paper, we are at a suspense. We really don't know what is happening behind the curtain or what is happening at the end of the editor. So none other than Dr. Geeta Balsarkar, who is currently the editor-in-chief of our prestigious Jogi, will be telling us what processes your article and case presentations go through behind the curtain, how it is scrutinized before it is rejected or accepted. And third talk is by our assistant editor of Jogi, Dr. Sujata Darvi, because once you decide to have a research study, you should know what type of studies you are planning to conduct. Because once you choose a study, you complete your paper and submit it, you just can't revise your material and methods after the rejection of your paper. So beforehand only you should be thorough with the types of studies, which Dr. Sujata Dadvi is going to tell us all on about different types of studies. So I welcome all the three eminent speakers. I also welcome all the chairpersons, Dr. Shobna Mohandas, Dr. Nirmala Vaze, Dr. Anita Shah, Dr. Sulbha Joshi, Dr. Pushpa Sethi, and Dr. Shama Kedar. And of course, how can I forget our MOC, Dr. Vidya Sutavne, who has agreed at the last moment to conduct the proceedings for today's webinar. And of course, I welcome all the delegates for this fantastic webinar on how to write a paper and the details afterwards. So welcome once again, welcome you all for this webinar.
Okay, thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Lakshmi. Would you be hello? Shall I welcome, or will you welcome Dr. Ambuja?
No, it's my pleasure and privilege to welcome our dynamite of our National Indian Menopause Society, our president, Professor Ambuja, who is retired professor and HOD from Osmania Medical College, Hyderabad. She is visiting professor at Savita University, Chennai, and she is All India Vice President of Family Planning Association of India, President of FPI Hyderabad branch. She is Treasurer of Society of Obstetric Medicine. She is peer reviewer for our Jogi journal and other journals. And friend, she is also UG and PG examiner. But above that, she is charming, always smiling. She's there to guide you whenever you need her guidance. She's just a phone call away. So I welcome Dr. Ambuja as a chief guest, as a president of IMS, to please share your words of wisdom with our audience.
Thank you very much, Lakshmi Srikhande, for your kind words. I don't know whether I deserve it or not.
You very much deserve it.
Yeah, thank you. And I owe a lot to all my previous presidents. I learned so much from everybody, each and everybody I learned. And all the respected teachers here, Dr. Suvarna, Dr. Shama, Dr. Vidya, and Dr. Nirmala Vaje, Dr. Shobana Mohandas, and Dr. Geeta, everybody. Good afternoon and good evening. It is becoming good evening now. Good evening, everybody. And today's topic really revisit systematic write-up. This is there in my mind since a long time, from the time I joined medical college, post-graduation in the medical college. And when I took up as a president of IMS last month, Dr. Srikhande, she wished me and said, Ambuja, what can we do? And I'm also taking over, and now you tell me, as a education, this thing, I am ready to do whatever you want. I said, first and foremost, we'll organize a series of things for this, because we don't have anything like writing up the systematic writing or presentation in our MBBS curriculum. It is not there. We'll just, as 17 years old, we'll dash into the medical college, we'll get in there, and we'll finish and we'll come out. And once you join the post-graduation, come on. Your professor will tell, yes, you have to submit the thesis. We don't know what is thesis, what is submission, and what is all. And second thing, finally, what we know about only one thing, unless this thesis is accepted, you are not allowed to go for the examination, only that much we know. And second thing is, it doesn't carry any marks, first of all. So which student will have interest in that one? So we don't have. So finally, where it ends up, copy from somebody, either fully or partially, do something to the justice. If you are very, lucky enough, it will be signed by everybody, finish, you will pass the exam and you will get out. These things used to happen only in the institutes like All India Institute or JIPMER or anywhere like that. There only they used to do it sincerely. That time only it was in my mind, why not we? Why not we as a private practitioner or wherever we are? Because there is no dearth of material for us. We can do any number of things, but only thing is we don't know how to write and how to produce papers and how to present the papers. So that was in my mind, and this has become a very good platform for us, so that not only to the like us people, but for everybody, a young budding doctor you take or scientist you take, and what is it's going to happen is it is going to spread lot of knowledge. We are going to gain some of the protocols. These things only are going to become the protocols. With that, we are going to gain knowledge. We know what is good and what is not. Otherwise, what happens if we don't produce the scientific papers? Our knowledge is stagnant wherever you are. What you read in the medical college, it's going to be like that only. It's not going to go forward. So I think this is the one, whether people will appreciate it or not. We thought it is a step forward to see that we will do it. And I'm thankful to Dr. Lakshmi Srikande for readily accepting, because she too worked a lot in that journal committee. And very, very thankful to Dr. Suvarna, Dr. Geeta Balsakar, and then Sujata for accepting and sparing their time and parting their knowledge with us. Thank you very much for giving the opportunity. Thank you. IMS family, I'm always indebted to you all.
I appreciate, and I must say that Dr. Ambuja, you have a grand vision, because this is really needed. And I am happy that you told me to start with these things, which is I am also very passionate about. So we will have the series, and I am happy you have labeled it as a series 1. So we will continue.
So that also we had discussion. No,
yes.
Lakshmi, what to name, how to manage. We are not going to stop at
I
that.
asked her only to give a theme.
Always it is a comma, not a full stop anywhere.
Yes. I know. I am happy you gave a very apt theme to our ongoing series. Now it's a pleasure and privilege to welcome our National Secretary General, Dr. Sudha Sharma. She is guest of honor for today's webinar. What happened to my screen sharing? It's not becoming slideshow.
If you give me a chance, I will tell about Sudha.
Yeah, you can. I am going to introduce her formally, friends. Dr. Sudha, she is former professor at GMC Jammu. As I already told you, she is Secretary General of IMS, honorary professor. She is managing committee member of PCO Society. She was president of Jammu OBGY Society. Okay, she founded the Jammu Menopause Society, editor-in-chief of the Journal of Midlife Health, and she is a great academician. Dr. Ambuja, you are most welcome to share your sentiments about Dr. Sudha.
Though it is late, only 2 words I will tell.
Yeah.
I am very happy to have to be associated with Sudha as my Secretary General. You say, because she is such a well-learned person, especially for this. She worked as a editorial board for about 20 years. It is something unimaginable. And she knows so many things about the the publishing the papers and publishing in the journals, how to write, how to reject. That is the main thing. We will write the papers and they will come back to us. We don't know what to do. We struggled hard for 1 year and then it will go there and it will come back. How to resubmit that? These are all the things that are there. And I think Sudha is the apt person for this type of meeting. And one thing I can say, all the people for the present committee, of course, Shobana always, she's a guide for me. Dr. Sethi, Dr. Sudha, of course, Jyoti Shah, and
I'm your
Dipasa
junior,
Shah,
madam,
all are
not
so
your guide.
nice. Yeah, Suvarna, you are telling.
No,
You are always my
Shobana
guide. How
said
can
something.
I forget? Because of you, I learned a lot. I can never forget.
So I invite Dr. Sudha Sharma to please say something, some words for this webinar. Dr. Sudha.
Good evening, dear friends. Thank you so much, Dr. Lakshmi, for your kind introduction. And thank you so much, Dr. Ambuja, for such wonderful words which you have spoken for me. I don't know whether I am, I feel so blessed and I feel so lucky to have you as a president.
Not
2020.
now, at the end of the year, you tell.
No. You know, at the start only, if I tell this thing, I'm going to have a wonderful tenure. I'm sure about it. So, dear friends, we all know that we are going through a bad situation. COVID situation is worsening and things, they look bleak. But let us find out ways to make the best out of this bad situation. Our most dear president, Dr. Ambuja, has framed a wonderful vision 21-22, and we are trying hard to have it executed in a best way. So congratulations, dear Dr. Lakshmi, Chairperson Education Committee. What a scholarly start of your activity, I tell you. And you have invited very eminent, learned gems as faculty. Dr. Suvarna, welcome. Dr. Geetha, Dr. Sujata, and luminaries as chairpersons. I tell you, Dr. Waze, Dr. Shobana, Dr. Anita, Dr. Joshi, Dr. Pushpa, and Dr. Sharma. It is said that knowledge is lost if not written or put on records. So you may do n number of researches and n number of experiments, but a scientific experiment is never complete until the results are published, thus adding some information to the existing literature. So the purpose of our scientific writing is to communicate new scientific findings. But this write-up has to be very clear, clean, simple, well-ordered, so that it transmits and disseminates the results of your research. So waiting to hear from dear Dr. Suvarna. The second topic, which is peer reviewing and editorial process, I tell you, it forms one of the most important part of the process of publication. Good peer reviewing filters out the poor research and upholds the quality of the literature and in turn the credibility of the journal. So many steps are there in peer reviewing. I think these all Yogi persons would agree with me that once the article is submitted, after the editor's assessment, you have first round, after reviewing, sometimes revision, re-revision, re-reviewing before the final acceptance. So whatever published material we see in our journals, it requires a long process and hard work behind the curtain. So it's like, you know, knowing hard work of the director and the team in making a film. So waiting to hear from Dr. Geetha about this topic. And then knowing various study designs is like revisiting your preventive and social medicine, whatever we read during our MBBS time. So Dr. Sujata is going to take us through that journey. So all the very best for today's event, and thanks for making us all a part of this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sudha. Thank you so much, Dr. Ambuja, for gracing the webinar. Now let us start with our scientific deliberations. Vidya, please go ahead.
Vidya, you are muted. Dr. Vidya, you are
Am
muted.
I audible? Am I audible now?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
Vidya, you are audible.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Lakshmi. For our first session, I would like to call upon the chairpersons. The first session is art and craft of writing a paper. And the chairpersons are eminent Dr. Shobana Mohandas. Yeah, Dr. Shobana Mohandas is President-elect Indian Menopause Society. She is a chairperson, Women's Doctors Wing, IMA Thrissur. She is President, Mission Pink Health, IMA Thrissur. She is past Vice President, Secretary General, Website Committee Chair, Quiz Chair, IMS. She is member of Foxy Food and Drug Committee. She is past member, Foxy Endocrinology Committee. She is Vice President, IMS Thrissur. She was Vice President in 2016-17. She has authored 2 textbooks in gynecology, and she has been invited as a speaker at more than 200 venues. Welcome, Dr. Shobana Mohandas. Please take the chair. I would again like to invite our dear Dr. Nirmala Vaze. Dr. Nirmala Vaze is National President NACI 2018-20. She has been past National Vice President Indian Menopause Society 2016-17. She has been past president of NACI Nagpur chapter in 2010 to 16. She is founder secretary of IMS Nagpur chapter. Her special interests are counseling in obs and gynae, breast and gynecological cancer. She very regularly conducts camps for early detection of breast and gynecological cancers in colleges and various women's organizations, and she conducts awareness programs on menopause. She's been a faculty for pelvic anatomy workshop at FICO Vancouver 2015 and Rio de Janeiro in 2018. She is faculty for evidence-based CME on cesarean section workshop. She's editor of book Practical Approach of Menopause Management, and she's had a Lifetime Achievement Award by IMA Nagpur. She has presented many papers on counseling breast cancer, and she's First Lady Rotarian in Nagpur. She has also conducted the project, Sandhyadi project for screening of peri and postmenopausal cancers. So welcome, Dr. Vaze, and it is over to you, chairpersons, for the session.
Lakshmi, can I have Suvarna's
Yeah,
CV on the?
Shobana, yeah.
Do we have this?
Can you see it? I have.
No, I cannot.
Suvarna's-
I can see
Yeah.
the message. Srikhande has started screen sharing, but I cannot see the CV of Dr. Suvarna Kadil.
Shobna, I can see, so shall I start?
Okay, then. Okay.
Yeah.
Shobana, do you need any CV
Suvarna,
to
you
present to tell about
I
Suvarna?
think no, Suvarna's first slide must be the CV slide. Suvarna, share your PPT.
No,
then.
no, what I am telling.
I don't
Shobana
need.
doesn't
She is my
need
classmate.
any
I know
CV
that,
of
but
Suvarna because
I
our
think my
classmate
network has
will
become
be
weak.
able to tell.
Suvarna, your aura and glamour is so much that my network has become weak, you know.
But I think if there is
let
no
Madam
need
Nirmala,
for
Madam.
any
I will.
introduction, you can skip my introduction.
Okay, I will just introduce her first, and then Dr.
I will
Nirmala
again
will
try.
introduce her properly. Dr. Suvarna is a very eminent researcher, and she has, I don't know, innumerable papers she has been writing
Can
and
you see
presenting.
now?
No, I cannot. I will just tell
Yes.
2 words and I will hand over. She is incidentally my classmate, so I am qualified to say that she has been researching for so many years. So ever since she's only classmate who went into the academics, and all rest of us are all doing chai pani business. But she's been actually if we want anything in the college, we call up Suvarna because she's only linked to us with our alma mater. And she has been really, ever since we were kids, I must say, she has been going into this research. And if she decides to do something, she will do it. What happens? She will bulldoze all the people around, but she will do and she'll get it done. And that's how she is. And that's how IMS has got this, got converted into societies under her leadership. And lot of people had to have a lot of troubles, but it came out in flying colors. You know, once she decides, she does it. So I'm very glad that she is teaching us on how to write a paper. There's nobody better than her.
And
to
I will
write
just
colors.
add 4 formal
Yes.
lines to your introduction, Shobna, because as I can see only my slide which I am displaying, she is professor and head of OBGY at Bombay Hospital. She is editor emeritus of our journal, and she is treasurer of Foxy. तो खजांची है हमारी वो. She was president of National IMS, president of AMWI Mumbai branch from 2011 to 16. And as you have already said, she is a very humble, down to earth, but a great academician and a great researcher, Suvarna. So welcome on this platform. The floor is all yours.
Madam
Thank you so
Nirmala
much.
wants to say something.
Shobna, I just wanted to add a few things. Like I have seen Suvarna, how hard she worked to make the menopause societies into independent menopause societies. All the chapters, I think, are now independent menopause societies. And I've seen Suvarna working so hard. So really, congratulations, Suvarna. And
I can
yes,
add one word.
we pass.
I
Yes.
also,
सब लोग chairperson बन गए, सुवर्णा भी आ गई तो.
opportunity to work under Suvarna. When she was president, she made me to work very obediently and very hard what she was doing, and I also enjoyed working under her. Thank you.
I think I am really overwhelmed with all your comments. And I must say that I am touched with whatever you said about me. I don't know whether I deserve it, but yes, I loved working for IMS. I am loving it, and I will forever love IMS and the functioning of IMS and working for it, giving my services to IMS. And I must say, whatever work I have done, Dr. Shobna, she was always with me as a friend. And I think she is one of the private practitioners who is very much interested. She has got a lot of vision in research. Very few private practitioners do write books, they write, present papers, do research. She is one of them. And what to say about all you IMSNs? Without your support, I could not have done what I did in 2017, because I had a huge, humongous task ahead of me to convert the IMS into a federation of different societies and to make all the chapters into independent societies. I think it has been a success, and I can see how passionately all of you are working in your individual societies. You are having so many programs. And a word about Ambuja ma'am. She was my secretary and Dr. Parag was joint secretary. These two were my pillars of strength, you can say. And every morning I used to call Ambuja ma'am, and I used to say, sorry ma'am, I'm disturbing you. And she said, don't call me, I'm your secretary. I said, no, you are my senior. I know you are so much senior to me. I feel very urged to give you any work as secretary. She says, nothing doing. It's post is post. You are president, I'm secretary. Whatever you tell, I am there. I will do whatever you tell me. I think, Ambuja, that is so nice of you. And so, you've been so gracious to do all that when I was there. And I believe that whatever I could do, these two were the main people, Parag and Ambuja, who actually helped me a lot means I will never forget in my life. Thank you so much. Now
Thank you,
I
Suvarna.
start with my presentation. Thanks, Ambuja, for being there since ever. Like I saw you until today. I like that ever smiling face of yours, and I feel good. Every morning we talk to each other. Oh, Suvarna, so nice to hear your voice. I say, so nice to hear your voice as well. So it was very nice relationship we had. Thank you so much, Ambuja, for giving me this opportunity. And I can share the screen.
Yes.
And straight go for the
Please.
talk.
You deserve it, Suvarna.
Thank you so much, dear. So I hope my screen can be seen now. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, we
I
can
cannot.
see.
Shobana, I think there's some problem with your screen. I mean, you have to change the views
I
to
can see
content
here.
view. Yes, I think so. So I think let us start with the topic.
slideshow kar Suvarna.
I've done it.
Huh.
So the topic of which is very close to my heart, and many of you might have read the editorials on the same topic. I have written an editorial series during my first year as editor-in-chief, where I have done a series of 6 articles on medical writing. And this was one of them, the art and craft of making a draft, writing a good quality scientific paper. So before I really go to the proper topic, I cannot not talk about Jogi. Today's all faculty, I think very kindly, Dr. Ambuja and Lakshmi have invited from editors from Jogi. So I'll give a little bit about Jogi. This was our Foxy journal, founded in 1950, along with when the Foxy was also founded. Founder editor was Dr. Jerusha Ajigad, and we have a huge readership. We have been holding these Pixep workshops for last 13 years, and I feel so happy that I was there with Dr. Mahendra Parekh ever since these Pixep workshops were initiated, and they are his brainchild. And I've seen that the quality of papers on this journal have been improving ever since we started having these workshops. I'm sure now IMS journal is going to take off. If you continue these type of workshops everywhere, I'm sure our this Journal of Midlife Health is going to also do very well. Let me just quickly tell you, I just recently handed over my charge of editor-in-chief to our my dear friend, Dr. Geeta, and I was awarded the editor emeritus honor. I was really touched with that gesture of a journal. So there is no way to get experience except through experience. There is no shortcut to having experience. So let me tell you, friends, before you start writing, ask yourself, why do I want to write a paper? Do I have necessary minimum qualities of a medical writer? So is there a compulsion or it is a necessity? Because if you're writing out of compulsion, I'm sure all of you will guess that the quality of writing is not going to be so good. Do I write to get funds? I want promotions. That's why I want to write. Do I have that kind of skill? I want to apply for a job. I have a fear of losing a job if I don't write. So I must tell you, all these are not so nice indications for medical writing. You must have that scientific mind. You must have that desire from within. You must have that will. You must have that skill, and you must keep on practicing. So will, skill, and drill are all 3 important components of the art of quality scientific writing. Even if one of them is missing, the quality product that you are going to have is not going to be of that high standard. So let me tell you that these are built on the sound foundation of scientific integrity of the researcher. What are the values? What are the values of having your work published? It documents that peers believe your research is important. You gain a lot of academic credibility. You become known as an expert in that particular area. You will be asked to be a peer reviewer. You will be ahead of the literature because you are the first one to do something new that has not been done before. So very important for academic advancement. Believe me, friends, when I have written articles on, say, for example, thyroid, stimulating hormone reference range, I started getting, invitations to write more and more on the same topic. So it is like people world across who have read my article, they started believing that I'm expert in that particular field. So I think that is what is the value for your work being published. So you must do all your best to do a quality research and get it published. So how do you start writing? First of all, choose the research question or form a hypothesis that has not been discussed or published before. There's no point in just confirming the already proven facts. So then after choosing a new topic, choose a most suitable journal. Choice depends upon the nature of the research and the journal's inclinations. So it is, you just go through several journals and you find that what is the nerve of the journal, whether this particular journal is wanting a basic biomedical research, this journal wants more of clinical research, this journal wants more of case reports, what is it about. So depending on that, you will choose the most suitable journal. And not only the study the instructions to authors, not only study the instructions to authors, but most important is just not reading but following them strictly when you write the article. Analyze various papers published in the target journal and see why they are in this published in this particular journal. What is the quality of that particular paper? That is why this paper this journal has accepted this paper. So analyze every aspect of that particular paper in that journal. Understand the scope of the journal, clinical or basic, based on the objective quality and importance of your study. You select which journal you want to submit your paper. The journal should have good impact factor. It generally indicates the quality and importance of that journal in the publishing area. So if you ask me, how do I write? Let me tell you, voracious readers make good writers. I read all the literature available on the subject. Reading many well-written articles helps you develop an original writing style of your own. Don't copy anybody else's style. You read many, choose what is good out of many articles, and you yourself develop your style of original writing style. And then I personally read my own article once I write it down, and I read it again and again. After, first time when I make a final draft, I give it to my scientific colleagues. And let me tell you, my scientific colleague is my life partner, my husband. So many times I give my article for reading to my husband, and then he goes through it. He being editor of many journals, he knows exactly what is wrong, and he gives me a lot of tips where I've gone wrong. So I again do corrections as suggested by them, and submit my article only after I'm completely satisfied with the draft that I have made. If you are not satisfied with the draft that you have made, do not go ahead and submit that article, because take it from me, it is going to be rejected in the first place. So first you decide what type of article you want to publish. You want to go for original article, you want to go for case report, instrumentation. Now Jogi has all these types of articles that are taken. We have also started, when I took over as editor, we started systematic reviews and meta-analysis as a new type of paper. We have pictorial essay, because there are some cases which really have a full message in one or two pictures of that, but clinical pictures of that particular case, and there is no need for much of description, and it says it all. So pictorial essays are also very good very good way of publishing your cases and clinical experience. Letter to editor, short commentary. I have seen many people submitting the article in the wrong type of article. Like if they have a review article, they will submit it under original article. So it gets rejected if the author doesn't know the difference between what is an original article, what is the review article, what is a case report. If you don't know, and if you are submitting in the wrong type of paper, the editor creates a very bad impression about the author, and it tends to get rejected in the initial stages. Now, if someone says, this is the very, very important thing, that if someone says, oh, what is there in writing? If someone says crafting a draft is easy, just believe me, he's not doing it right. The right way to craft a draft is to first write and then review and revise. What do you do later? Then review again, revise, review, revise, review, revise as many times as you want, till you yourself are satisfied. And then, as I said earlier, give it to your friend, give it to your scientific colleague, and then take corrections, and then be satisfied, and then make a final draft. So what should the article have, separate section headings, and what should be the order in the manuscript? The title, the keyword, the abstract, the introduction, aims and objectives, material methods. Usually this is the order in which the manuscript is written. The results and observations, discussion, conclusions, acknowledgements, references, last but not the least, the ethical statements and conflict statements. They are very, very important. So friends, I must say the order in which they are written and published they can be variable. The way you work on those various subheadings, like, some researchers start writing the results section first and followed by discussion and abstract, because the you don't know what you are going to write. And some others prepare notes while reviewing the literature. I do that. When I review the literature, what type of research I want to do it, I make notes out of each paper. Okay, this paper gives this message, this paper gives this message. I combine all of them so that my half of my review of literature and the message out of it is ready. After I form a research question, which is useful for writing discussion section. The title is written last as it reflects what the paper is all about. And let me tell you, this is the most widely read section of a paper. So don't write the title in a hurry. Do not, write in such a way that they, after reading, you feel, oh, there is nothing in this article. I don't feel like even reading it. So such type of title should be avoided. So what is the good title? That the title will determine whether paper gets read or no. Avoid long titles. See the journal rules. Some journals have a rule that it should not be above so many words. So make sure that you follow that rule. Avoid abbreviations. Like, whatever standard abbreviations we use also should not actually appear in the title. The title format should be, remember that this is a scientific article, scientific journal, and it is not a commercial magazine. So do not have titles which are flashy, which are like, how you see in news and this thing, magazines. Don't write like that. So the same article title can be like the effects of heat on ice, heat melts ice, the role of heat in melting ice, dog disease hits man, something like, which should simultaneously sound scientific and not very flashy like a commercial magazine. So how does one write abstract? It is the critical part of paper. It has to state the main objective, and it should give and summarize most important results of your paper. I tell you one thing, after the title, the next widely read section is the abstract. So abstract should contain the essence of your work that is there in the main manuscript. The state major conclusions and significance. Avoid acronyms even in abstract. And if you have any references, try to avoid them. Do not include in abstract, but in case you have to include them, then you have that particular system that is followed as per the journal rules. Write and rewrite until the abstract looks absolutely flawless, because abstracts are the ones which are visible free of charge to the entire global readership. If your whole manuscript, the full text will not be visible, but abstract is going to be read by almost all the readership. So it should be absolutely flawless without any mistake. How does introduction, and what is the purpose of introduction? Build case for why study is important or necessary. Provide brief background, state hypothesis. What is your central question? That should come in introduction section. Give a one sentence summary of findings. And what about material and methods? This is the most, toughest of all, is material and methods. Methods should be detailed enough so that it can be repeated by others. It should include all these points. It should include study period and type of institute, subject and control of the study, type of the study, ethical committee approval obtained or no, protection of human and animal rights has been taken care of or no, study design, whether it is prospective, retrospective, observational, cross-sectional, inclusion and exclusion criteria should be included in this, estimated sample size, and power calculation or rationale of sample, why you have chosen a particular sample size in this particular study should be explained in this particular section. And actual steps of method should be very, very clear. And validation of research tool, biases, if any, if they are there, then you should say that these could be the bias or blinding of the observers done or no, funding source and conflicts of interest, if any, should be mentioned. and proposed primary outcome, proposed secondary outcome, and statistical analysis, and the tool that you have used should include in methods. But method has to be written perfectly well, because this is one of the common reasons for rejections of the article. Now, results. The tables and figures must be straightforward and concise, and do present main findings referring to tables and figures. All the tables must be cited in the main full text. Do not speculate or over discuss results. The discussion section is first answer question posed in the introduction, because I have seen so many times the author gets carried away. Just while writing the whole manuscript, after he forgets what were our original introduction, what were the aims and objectives of our paper, and he just discusses something else. So do not do that. If there is any byproduct of your study, there is something that you want to discuss, you take it at the end. Initially, first half of your discussion should have a question posed in the introduction and what you found. Relate your conclusion to existing knowledge and aims and objectives, and not otherwise. Something like aims is something like, I want to study the incidence of PIH, and the conclusion is that there was a high incidence of preterm labor. Now there is no whatsoever connection of this aim and the conclusion. So make sure what your introduction, what your aims and objectives were, and that way only your discussion should be there and the conclusion should be there. Do not repeat the results, but a tabular comparison of your results with literature reports is a very good tip for readers. They can get an easy table format comparison of different research articles that have appeared, and so that they can understand how important or relevant your research is, so that they can either do the research or they will improvise their practice accordingly. Discuss the weaknesses and discrepancies. Definitely don't think that it is my paper, why should I discuss the weaknesses? No, you must write the weakness of your paper, some discrepancies that might have been there, and describe in the discussion section. Now, the conclusion should be aims and objectives accomplished or no, a clear take-home message, how it will improve the current practice, and if what do you recommend to the readers, and what are the future implications. So all these 5 points can be covered in conclusions. How should be the references? They have to be chosen the most relevant, recent. See the journal guideline. If it says not more than 10 years references are to be used, delete all those. Be highly selective, read the references. I've seen, as I said, abstracts are the ones which are read most. So people don't even read abstracts. They read only the title, and then they refer. And many a times what happens is, when you refer such a article, and only by reading the title, it is many a times irrelevant to the study or the point that you are making. So make sure that you read the full text. That is most ideal. And at least the abstract which gives you the conclusion, I will advise, go and read the full text. I do read full text of the articles. Do not misquote, use correct style of journal. As for Jogi, we have Vancouver style of referencing. So do not use any other style. Use only and only Vancouver style of referencing. Now, there should be a strong visual structure to your paper, using, sections and subsections, bullets, italics, and you should have a laid out code. Find out how to draw pictures and use them. This is very important. If your visual structure of your paper is good, then it is, even though there are some lapses anywhere, some typos, they will be overlooked, and the visual structure is appreciated by reviewers and editors, and they will be taken ahead. Problems with the peer review. See, it is, after all, it's a slow process. It's a lottery. To whom your paper goes for review, that reviewer is suppose very, very knowledgeable. He will find out the fallacies in your paper. If the person is not so knowledgeable, he will say, wow, what a paper. It's a lottery after all. It is many a times then the peer reviewer becomes ineffective, biased, easily abused, and works for improving the studies, not selecting which to publish, because that is the job of editor. So he can suggest how to improve your paper, but finally the products, whatever is come out, the editors will decide whether to publish or no. How do you respond to reviewers? Carefully prepare your responses. Each comment should be addressed that is asked to you. Each change should be stated. Be very enthusiastic and do not be, means very lazy to answer and improvise your article, because then the editors feel I have asked him to do so many changes. Out of that, he has just done 2 changes and just sent back the article. There are times when authors don't make any change and they just send the same draft without making any change, and it comes as a revised first revision. And when we read it, we find that there is no change in the article. Don't do that. It creates a very bad impression. So reviewer may be wrong. So you have to understand every reviewer or a human has its own limitations. So be tactful. Don't just directly start abusing reviewer. Thank the reviewer first. Say do not respond to reviewer while you are upset. You get very upset when your work is criticized. Don't start abusing. Your reviewers have no brains. Your reviewers don't know. So many things I have read, in my journal. This is how the many reviewers write. Don't do that. Please respect. Today your paper is being assessed, so give due respect. Never call the editor to put pressure on him to accept your paper. That is not taken well by the editor. Get help from other authors, how to improvise, what are the ways to improvise your article. What are the common problems in Indian submissions? Very often we think we boast about our own work, so we very often write it's the first Indian report of. We present a very rare case of, but see, it is rare for you. It is first Indian report as per your knowledge. There might have been many other authors who might have reported similar. Then, it is plagiarism also is one problem with the common problem in submissions. It is better that you run your article at the end of it through a plagiarism detection softwares which are easily available, and have a count of similarity index. Usually about 15% of plagiarism can be allowed, but more than that, if your plagiarism similarity index is there, please do changes and rewrite the whole paper till the count goes down. Introduction, results, and discussion are repetitive. References are unchecked and unvalidated, and poor language skills. All these problems are, there in the Indian submissions. So what do the editors want? Editors want some excitement and wow factor. Wow, what a paper. Yes, come out with something new. It is not to be, said by the author. It has to come out from the editor side that, wow, this is something new that I read. Then importance has to be given. Originality, relevance to the audience is important. Then true, clearly written. We should now untrue data should be published, and editors have so much experience that immediately we can make out that this entire paper is based on untrue data. So don't ever use the true data. It should be clearly written, and it should be engagingly written. And always editors want respectful communication. Do not ever attack editors by saying that your editorial team is foolish. Never ever say that. So do's and don'ts of medical writing. Original articles must have originality, otherwise they lose their value. Read manuscript as if it is written by someone else. You will quickly understand its true potential. Isn't it? It is very easy to point mistake of others. Very often you don't know your own mistake. So give your paper to somebody else and you read it yourself, then think that it is somebody else's paper. The mistakes will come out so easily. Poor language skills, then take a help of language experts. We have corrections on even softwares are there which will help you correct the spellings and grammar and make the draft to its perfection, and then only submit. Ensure that all authors contribute and review manuscript and agree to the authorship order. And case reports submitted purely for its rarity may be rare for you, but not for the journal. I get sometimes at a time 10 papers that this is the rarest case of so and so, but now I get 10 papers. So how do I choose out of the 10 which one I will publish? I have seen now 10 cases at one go. So it may not be rare for the journal. Submission after complete technical checking is very, very important. Ensure that you respond to all the queries. comply with all required revisions to the satisfaction of reviewers, and do not offend the editors. And in short, I will tell you the journey of a research article, the technical checking. After that, it goes to editor-in-chief, then editorial discussion. I think maybe Geeta is covering, so I can skip that. So very poor article is rejected or major revision is advised. Up to the, if the revision is not up to the mark, they are rejected. But if the article is totally out of scope, then they are rejected in the beginning at the time of initial review by all the editors. This is the process of research, how it goes, the completion of research, preparation of manuscript, submission of manuscript, assignment and review, decision is made, either rejection or it goes for revision, then resubmission after revision, re-review, or it could be still rejected and it could be accepted. And if it is accepted, it goes for publication. This is the analysis of reasons for rejection. You can see that the first four, these four reasons for rejection. Poor methodology is this is our journal Jogi statistics. Poor methodology is the commonest cause for rejection. Many similar papers where similarity index is high. Case reports which are not rare are rejected. And fourth most common reason for rejection is plagiarism. So I think rejection rates are 80 to 85% of very top tier journals, including our Jogi. Some journals have reported to be even 90 to 95%. Sometimes restricted publishing space is the reason. Interestingly, 62% of the papers have been rejected at least once before other journals they get published in other journals. So a good quality research paper will find the space it deserves in top tier journals. This way or that way, finally it will find space. So how to read the articles? This is the primary guide and secondary guides. I think this is not the topic which was given to me, so I'll skip one or two slides here. And one small tip as to, after you write the articles, this should be useful to the medical practitioners. So first, define the problem clearly. Use one of a number of research strategies to obtain the best available evidence. And you want to find an article relevant to what practice or what patient you are dealing with. You first search the medical literature, what is best relevant to your practice. Go through it. What are the most papers, what are strategies they are suggesting, you follow in your practice. So that is the importance of reviewing and reading the literature. So instead of a single original trial, maybe you can choose to read review articles, systematic review articles and meta-analysis, so that you can learn rather than one paper. You can learn from many research groups rather than one single team. So to conclude, final aim of publishing or reading is the health of women. That is why we are here to talk so much about medical research. It is not just for doing research, but final aim is to improvise the women's health. It is an honor to publish your good quality work and review it. The best way to write good papers is to review work of others, and everyone has papers rejected from time to time, and rejection says nothing about you. It is only a particular, piece of work. It doesn't mean that your work is bad. It is just that it is not suitable for that particular journal. You can always try to other type of journals where it could be published. So you should write in such a way that you will be remembered forever for your work. Learn the art and craft of making a draft with skill, will, and drill, honesty, integrity, with dignity. Thank you so much.
Vazir madam, you can conclude. Madam?
Yes. Suvarna, thank you very much. It was a very appropriate, to the point and useful tips that you have given us. That reminds me of a workshop in Hyderabad that we attended. I don't know, maybe Ambuja, were you there about 10 or 12 years ago? Dr.
Yeah, yeah,
Meeta
yeah.
was the president.
I know,
And I thought,
I know.
why she
I
is
was there.
Dr. Meeta had
conducting
done
this
it.
workshop?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was there.
And, you know,
We
I
were the
was,
organizing
I was
people, no,
little
that
bit
time.
hesitating.
Nita was the
Yeah,
president that time.
And, but then at the end, at the end of the workshop, I realized, you know, how wrong we were and how to write a paper and how to get it corrected and how not to get depressed if it is rejected. So there are many things that we learn during the paper. And if I remember correctly, Sulbha, we discussed this and that we decided this, we will conduct this workshop in near future in Nagpur. Yes, you are very right in saying, Suvarna, that research paper is a method of communication. Any paper is a method of communication. The reader should feel that he or she is connected. It should be interesting to read what happens next, what happens next. You know, there shouldn't be a grammatical mistake. It should be written in a simple language which a reader should understand and everybody will understand. So that is the basic norm of writing any paper. And Suvarna has already told us about the general format, the title, abstract, and the aims and objects and everything. I liked your 3 components, Suvarna: build, skill, and drill. That is really necessary for any paper. I would say that don't get depressed if your paper is rejected. Go home, think about it. When I failed my part 2 MRCUG for the first time, I cried. But then I went home and I realized and I asked myself, did I do anything wrong? I did many things wrong. That's why I failed. And then I realized and I took some time. I took 1 year to prepare myself properly and then I passed the exam. So don't get depressed. Just writing a paper and getting it refused doesn't mean that it ends your life. No, it doesn't. So start thinking and writing, especially in this Corona period when you have got ample time. Yes, we can start writing. Start writing. Think about the topic and what all you want to write in the paper and the components of it. And of course, as Suvarna said, plagiarism is very, very important. That we realized when we wrote the book on pelvic anatomy. Many a times our articles were sent back, and then we realized that plagiarism is very, very important. So take care of that. And with these notes, I congratulate you, Suvarna, again for guiding us and properly telling us the points. Thank you, Lakshmi. And thank you, Ambuja.
Thank you, Suvarna, for a great talk. I'm sure people are waiting for the remaining talks. I will just say that it was a great, 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 great talk.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Shobna.
Suvarna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Suvarna, Shobna, Vaze madam. Thank you so much. Let us move to the second
Hello.
talk by our editor in chief of Jogi, Dr. Geeta Balsarkar. I am sharing the screen of the chairpersons for Vidya. Vidya, can you see? Yeah.
We'll have the question and answer session at the end, right?
She has already answered all the things and it was
Okay.
very crystal clear. Can you see my screen, Vidya?
Yes. I would now like to call the chairpersons for our next session, which is no peer reviewing and editorial process. So I request the chairperson, Dr. Anita Shah, to join. She is a practicing gynecologist in Surat since 1988. She was president of Surat Obstetrics and Gynecology Society in 2001 to 2001, when SOGS received its Best Societies Trophy Award from Foxy. She was organizing chairperson of World Conference on Population Stabilization in February 2003. She was organizing secretary of National Conference of Indian Menopause Society, IMSCON 2009 in Surat. She's president of Udna Medical Association 2002-2003. Organizing secretary of State Conference of Gujarat, SOGOG in 1998 and 2016. She's founder chapter secretary, Indian Menopause Society. She's ex-secretary of the Surat Medical Consultants Association, and she has participated as faculty in many state, national, and international conferences. Welcome, Doctor. Dr. Sulban Joshi, she needs no introduction. She's a very dedicated, very hardworking, very nice person. She's professor and HOD OBGI. My personal experience, anytime I have a question to her, she will explain to me, and in such a beautiful manner, and so gently. She's a very, very gentle person. I believe she's having a little bit of infection, and despite all that, she's come and attended this conference. So welcome, Dr. Sulabha Joshi. And I will hand it over to the chairpersons now.
Yeah,
The
thank you very
chairpersons.
much. Yeah. Thank you very much, dear Dr. Lakshmi. Thank you very much, Dr. Vidya, for kind words. And all my special gratitude to Ambuja Madam, Dr. Dear Sudha, and all other dignitaries. So, friends, Suvarna had just given a wonderful talk. It was really, really excellent, and we have learned a many things from it. Now again we are going to enjoy another excellent academic fest by none other than our another gem, Dr. Geeta Balsarkar. You all know very well that peer review is defined as a process of subjecting an author's scholarly work, research, or ideas to the scrutiny of others who are experts in the same field. Secondly, peer review is intended to improve the quality of manuscripts that are deserved suitable for the publication, and it is designed to assess the validity, quality, and often the originality of the articles for publication. Its ultimate purpose is to maintain the integrity of the science by filtering out the invalid or poor quality of articles. So friends, all this will be discussed by Dr. Geeta Balsarkar regarding the peer review and editorial part of this journal. Dr. Geeta Balsarkar is the professor and head of the department of SETH, GS Medical College and Navroji Wadia Maternity Hospital, Bombay. She is a clinical secretary of Mumbai Obstetric and Gynec Society, vice president of Menopause Society, Mumbai, president AMWI Mumbai branch, and she is editor-in-chief of the Journal of OBGY of India. So friends, without wasting much time, I think I would like to hand over the mic to Dr. Geeta for her talk.
Okay, I have slightly changed the topic, Lakshmi, into publishing your work in peer-reviewed journals.
Okay.
So I want that all the authors should know what is going on behind the screen. When they publish work to us, what happens to these particular articles? I am going to go through bit by bit of this. So in an overview, I'm going to talk preparing to write your manuscript, the type of papers, the journal selection, the ethical guidelines, defining authorship, sections of an article, the submission process and the peer review process. So most important thing, Suvarna has already gone over how to prepare your manuscript, but I'm not going to talk in so much detail. But a few important point is, what is the novelty? Why should anybody read your article? Like for example, as an editor of Jogi, I get about 10 to 12 articles on IV iron and anemia every week. What is the novelty? Why should we publish that particular article? And the same studies are done by different people across the country. So why should we publish it? Why should the reader find this journal interesting to read? That is what the editor will think. And each and every article they will think, will our reader find this an interesting read? What is the message? Is there an apt message for practicing gynecologists? Can it be directly translated into a message? Can they follow this particular procedure or use this particular instrument? We have to put it in the context, need proper appropriate references. Don't make it longer or shorter than needed. Word count is very, very important. Suvarna has already stressed upon this. I cannot stress upon it anymore. Word count is very important, and we have to stick in word count, because in one journal there are only n number of the papers that we can publish. And if your paper occupies a space of 2 papers, it is very, very difficult for us to publish and invest time in writing well. Please don't do it in a hurry. Only when we have time, you write. Preparing to write your manuscript, first and most important thing is what we do, the authors do mostly, is they write the article and then they try to see which journal they can publish. But I tell you the other way around. Choose your journal first with respect to your study. Read the journal's author's instructions, very, very important. Read few issues of the journal also to find if similar articles have been published in previous 6 months. We cannot keep on publishing similar article, every 6 months. So read 6 months article to see if a similar article has been published. Look at the impact factor of the journal. Use the correct format and choose appropriate co-authors. Only first, second, and the corresponding author gets the credit. Therefore, accordingly choose your authors. That there are lots of papers like original research articles, reviews, letters, comments, discussion, errata, editorial, and what we need to remember is like the Journal of Obs and Gynec is got a very broad interest. We mainly cater to the postgraduate population, students, postgraduate students. So in some journals like IVF journals are very, very specialized, and they will not take any other articles other than those particular interest. Therefore, journal selection is a very important aspect of your publication. Whether you want to write a full length original article or whether you want to write a letter to the editor which has got a better chance to better chance for acceptance, whether you want to subscribe or whether you want to give an open access to your article, it involves money. So we have to be very, very careful. When you're giving open access to your article, the journal may charge you some money for it to be open access. So please be very careful. And the timeline of publication process is 3 months on an average, and look at the reputation of the journal. Now, ethical guidelines, very, very important to follow the ethical guidelines. Don't think that nobody will come to know, my head of the department will not understand, I can just have this publication. No, at some point or the other, it will be found out and then there can be a complaint. Obtain necessary clearance from the ethical committee. Submit to only one journal at a time. We find people submitting to 3 journals at a time, and then they say that my journal article has already been accepted in some other journal. Kindly allow me to withdraw. It's very wrong. Do not submit to more than one journal at a time. Declare if you have any conflict of interest and give proper attribution to the head of the department, the dean, the medical director, etc. Obtain permission from the hospital before starting the study. Please do not fabricate data. Comply with internationally recognized principle of use of animal and human subjects in research. Word by word copying is strongly discouraged, but if necessary, it must be given to proper attribution. Types of authorship are: one, there is a lead author. The lead author is a primary responsibility, most substantial contribution, and usually the first author. Then there is a submitting author, the author who normally deals with the journal. Then there is a corresponding author, a person interested individuals can contact, predictable address, and usually is a submitting author. And then there is a last author, or sometimes the head of the department or somebody can be the last author. Now, authorship and submission: list affiliation of each author, allow each author to review and comment prior to submission, and journal will send email to all the authors. If you have submitted without discussing it with other authors, be very ethical, because they will come to know, because journal will send email to all the authors. The title has to be informative, accurate, and concise. The abstract, I'm not going to discuss in detail, should have problems and objective, methodology, findings and conclusion, and research effect and impact. Check the journal style guide for abstract length restrictions. And remember, abstract is the one thing that is going to be read by each and every person before they decide whether they want to read your article or not. So abstract is the face of the article, and therefore it has to be really very good. Grammar, punctuation, spelling, terminology, very, very important. Logical sentence structure, clarity of content, and we can use shorter sentences. Read papers in English in leading research journals, and you can ask your colleagues for help. What is the basic acceptance criteria? Work should be relevant to your journal scope. Results should be very, very significant to your field. Incremental work is discouraged. Discussion and conclusion should be supported by data. Work placed in proper context. Equations, figures, tables, multimedia contribute to the presentation, and it is well written and logically organized. Before you submit, do a language review, a journal style guide, browse published articles, and for all most of the journals now, because of the pandemic, they follow online submission process. For Jogi, it's www.editorialmanager.com, Jogi. So this is the editorial manager of the Springer, and there's a submission process. It is properly explained in the journal, so please read about it. Then there is a copyright agreement. The authors transfer copyright and the retained rights for the author reuse. So you have to agree to this terms and conditions before you submit any article to the journal. Then the co-authors' email addresses are required. They will be notified when the submission is complete. So make sure you have made all the authors read this particular article that you're submitting and they know about it. So when submission is completed, there is an auto acknowledgement which is sent, and official submission confirmation will follow after a day or two when the final submission process is over. Now, once your article has reached the journal, what is done? The initial quality check will be done by the staff or the editor. The editor-in-chief then assigns appropriate associate editor or a national corresponding editor. So on an average, if I get about 12 to 13 articles every day, I go through it. Whatever I feel is there is no quality check, or whatever I feel is not up to the mark, I can reject it directly at my stage. Whatever I feel is good for the journal, the article is good, then I say then I send it to an associate editor or a national corresponding editor. Then associate editor or national corresponding editor take about 10 days to go through the articles, and they get it peer reviewed. The associate editor handles the manuscript. The associate editor then contacts the peer reviewers. Each peer reviewer can take about 15 days. We wait for the reports. They make the first decision, and then the editors or the national corresponding editor make the decision, and the editor-in-chief then makes the final decision, and manuscript sometimes is sent for a re-review with to make the changes that has been suggested by the reviewer and the editors. Now the reviewer recommendation can be accept as it is, require further revisions, it can be a major revision, it can be a minor revision, or it can be rejected. Peer reviewers' comments should help produce a better manuscript. Therefore, take your peer reviewers very seriously. Who is a peer? Peer is somebody who is of the similar status like you, or who is practicing, or who has got same experience like you. So our journal is a peer reviewed journal. That means we have two peer reviewers who go through this article before it is finally accepted. So the peer reviewer can say it is accepted, it requires further revision, major revision is required, minor revision, or it is rejected. Then the manuscript decisions, the editor makes a decision after the peer review. If revisions are requested, the authors may resubmit the revised manuscript. A cover letter is very, very important to explain each change, what the peer reviewer has asked you to do and what you have done. You should be very clear in explaining. Editor may refer back to the reviewer if they are not satisfied with your answers, but remember, the editor makes the final decision. Dealing with peer reviewers and editors, remember, peer reviewers or referees, they are not your enemy. They consider them an ally who can help you improve your manuscript. They are not telling you that they are not personally attacking you. Our article is double blinded. The peer reviewer does not know who is the author does not know who is the peer reviewer. So they are not your enemy. They are not out here to attack you. They are going to only improve your article. Treat them very seriously. Deal with each and every point. You may not necessarily agree with all the points of the peer reviewer. You can make additional changes. Don't cast aspirations on referees or try to guess the referee. Double blind articles are double blinded. They have, as an editor, I get sometimes calls or I get emails from the author asking, can you tell me who is my peer reviewer and why that peer reviewer is commented like this in an article? Don't do all that, and be very courteous to referees and editors. They are not getting paid for reviewing an article, yet they are taking out their time and they are analyzing your article and they are giving their report. Be very, very courteous to them. If the manuscript is rejected, act on the reviewer's comments, please, before submitting it elsewhere, because we find authors submit the same article 3 times. And like Suvarna said, however, you may ask them to revise the article, they do not do anything. They just keep on sending the same article as a revision. You can appeal, but most are turned down, and put it in your drawer for a week or two, reread the referee's reports and rewrite and submit to another journal. Your participation in the process, the referees and editors are volunteers. They are not getting paid for this. They require approximately 15 days for an article. Be generous with your own time as a reviewer. If you get an article as a reviewer, don't be in a hurry and finish it off in a day. Take your time to read the article once, twice, thrice. You can read it, you can think about it. Take your time when you're in the car, when you're traveling in the car, think about the article, think how it will help the journal. Refereeing is necessary CV item. It shows engagement in the community, and refereeing record is considered for the editorial board candidates. And always point out suspicions of unethical behavior. Sometimes as editors, we have got 15, 16 articles every day. It's very difficult for me to think the way a peer reviewer can think or the way the other editors can think. So always your point of view is very much accepted, and try to bring about suspicions or unethical behavior. So to conclude, the authors have to think like a peer reviewer and editor before submitting an article. The author themselves have to think, suppose this goes to a peer reviewer and this is a third person. How will that person think about my article? And why will the editor like to have my article published in the journal? Read instruction to author very thoroughly, very, very important. People first write the article and then try to fit the article according to the journal, which is very, very wrong. First read the instruction to the author and then sit and write the article, which is the apt thing to do. Choose your journal very carefully depending on the target audience. Who do you want to target? Do you want to target the general practitioners? Do you want to target the postgraduate students? Do you want to target the practicing gynecologists? Or do you want to target the super specialists like IVF, like endoscopy? Is it a specialized journal? Please check on English. Don't miss any important step of submission, and don't submit to multiple journals. Please, you can be blacklisted.
Fantastic, Sevi. Fantastic, Geeta.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Person.
It was really excellent presentation, and it was quite informative for our all the young coming buddies. That we can have a excellent presentation in various journals after that.
Sulba madam is here. Let Sulba madam conclude. Ambuja madam, आपके final comments.
Only about Geeta, I just wanted to tell one thing.
Please, please.
Geeta, it was an excellent presentation.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
But I'll tell you the real problems of the reviewer. This happens. If you reject a paper and send, it's very difficult to reject a paper than accepting. Accepting, you can just do it like that.
Yes,
rejection is so difficult. Each and every sentence, wherever it is necessary, you have to write and send. And calculations will be so wrong. And sometimes if one point of time, if you mention that this calculation is wrong and reject it, only that part they will correct, and remaining part will be there only. And again and again and again with the same mistakes, they are coming back for the reviewing. So I think this is very difficult part to be a reviewer.
Yeah,
Actually,
I understand, Dr. Ambuja, but we have to reject because I am also national corresponding editor. Some papers are of such low quality or bad quality.
That's what I'm telling. Rejection is so difficult, I'll tell you. Each and every sentence we have to read and reread. Because
they all fight with
mention why we are rejecting. That's the most difficult part it is.
And now Geeta is in the same boat with Suvarna. They all phone them and fight with them.
That's what. Again, it will come back to you only when you reject it. That's again another thing. It won't go to somebody else. Again, it will be with you.
Shall I intervene, madam?
Yes, yes. Sulva madam,
actually, what is happening these days, lot of importance is being given to publications. In medical colleges, when a postgraduate student has to appear for exam, he has to present a paper and has to have a publication to his credit. Then in medical colleges, even for appointments, for promotions, you need publications. So more and more people are coming. Earlier, this much importance was not given. Now they are giving importance to this. Then for NAC accreditation, now they have made it compulsory NAC accreditation for all medical colleges, and they are also giving lot of importance to this. So most of the faculties, they are encouraged to publish, and they are sending papers right and left. They are sending papers, and that is why you people are finding it difficult.
Madam, I get about 15 papers a day. I have to analyze 15 papers a day, and many of them are IV iron and correction of anemia. I am so this with it. The same study that is done 14 days later, 3 weeks later, they do, and then they say ferrium, this iron ferricarboxy maltose versus iron sucrose. The same study. If everybody sends me, what will I do with those?
But the number of postgraduates is also increasing. How can they bring more and more topics also? It is also becoming difficult.
I agree with you.
Subba madam
And
is
then we make them write paper on whatever thesis work they have done.
Yes,
that is another
But I have one good thing to share. Our journal is on the must-read list for the MUHS, the Maharashtra University of Health Sciences. So all our postgraduates are expected to read our journal for their 3 years tenure that they are with you. It is already on the MUHS website. You can see on the website also. And I encourage Dr. Ambuja and others who can help me. We can make it must read for the other postgraduates as well. Dr. Pushpa and others who can help me. Please help me with your universities. We can make the Jogi must read for other journals also.
Even our Journal of Midlife Health, it is included in the PubMed journals, no?
Yeah.
It is also a standard. It is very creditable, Journal of Midlife Health.
Yes.
What is my worry is, if this work is rejected, the student should not go in a low tier journal. Just for the sake of publishing, they are publishing the work done in low tier journals. That is not helpful, because it will not be read, or it will not be recognized by the people who should have read it and who should have referred to it.
Correct.
So that is the worry.
See, through the Foxy, what is my earnest request to Foxy is, why don't you arrange for such a case of publications, or we should tell the postgraduates in the beginning itself that how to write a paper. At least, see, it doesn't want that we don't want 500 cases to be there. Even if they write 4 or 5 cases also, do it properly and then publish. I think that information should be passed on to them.
In our new
because every college has got their own journal where it is a peer reviewed, they will say, and they will get the publications done, but it is not correct like that. So I think we should.
That is the purpose of starting the PICSEP programs. We are already
now ICMR has made it compulsory for postgraduates to undergo that research methodology workshop, where everything is done systematically, and they are also guided about publication.
I think we should sit and talk about it. I think now it is time.
Dr. Sudha wants to make a point.
Thank you, Dr. Geeta. It was such a wonderful presentation, I tell you. Many people, not only the postgraduates, I think people over here, whosoever is listening to you, they have gathered so much of information from you and from Suvarna. I just want to share my views. Long time back, when I started with Dr. Mohander Parekh, Dr. Sulva is very right that these days we are getting so many publications. That time, Dr. Mahinder told me, Sudha, don't do very strict reviewing. I did reviewing for Jogi for nearly 10 years. And I still remember that time when reviewing was not online. I used to get with post those papers. I used to do corrections, and then I used to post those papers. So those were the times. See, then we started our journal from J&K. We come out with a journal, JK Science. It is a multidisciplinary journal. We started this journal in 1999. That was the time when I used to take that journal to all the meetings, to all the conferences, and then I would ask, and we would ask people to give us the material, to give us the literature. People were not in habit of writing, believe me. Nobody knew what is journalism, how to write a paper, and how to submit a paper. Slowly and slowly, I have seen that growth. Then I became the editor in journal of JMH, reviewed for JMH also, Journal of Midlife Health, which is a PubMed index. But over the years, what I have seen, now if you look at the postgraduates, they have become so smart. They know what journal they have to submit, what journal, what material they have to submit, how to retrieve the material. So the thing, I have seen the changes over the years so much. But Dr. Ambuja is very right. Peer reviewing is a thankless process. It really requires a lot of courage to reject the articles. And when after submitting and re-reviewing, you don't get the re-revision in a proper way, you really get disgusted. So thank you so much for doing so much of work for this Jogi. And Jogi has really grown and grown and reached to these.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a very good job for Geeta and Suvarna. We appreciate you all really.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Geeta
Okay.
and the
Thank you,
Geeta
Geeta.
and Silva madam, आपको और कुछ बोलना है? And thank you so much for logging in and giving your side of the story. Thank you so much. Now let us move ahead with the third talk. So I invite Vidya to go through the CVs of our esteemed chairpersons.
Our next session and our last session, different study types. I invite the chairpersons, Dr. Pushpa Sethi. She is a senior practicing obstetrician and gynecologist at Gurgaon. She is director of Sethi Hospital. She is organizing chairperson of IMSCON. She was organizing chairperson in 2018. She is vice president-elect Indian Menopause Society, past secretary general Indian Menopause Society in 2018 to 19. Past chairperson Club 35 and Poise Committee of IMS, chairperson Midlife Management Committee FOXY 2015 to 18. Is past member Executive Council of FOMS, and she is past president Gurgaon OBGY Society and past president of IMA Gurgaon. So welcome, Dr. Pushpa Sethi.
Thank you so much.
Our next chairperson, dear Dr. Kshama Kedare. She is Associate Professor and Unit Head of Obs and Gynae, Indira Gandhi Medical College in Nagpur. She is President at present of Menopause Society Nagpur. She is AMOG's representative of NOGS 21-22. She is postgraduate teacher since 25 years. She's been faculty for medical education technology and research methodology, faculty and trainer for ALSO and BLSO workshop, faculty for pelvic anatomy revisited workshop, and faculty for evidence-based CME on cesarean section. She has developed unique workshop of pelvic anatomy revisited and evidence-based cesarean section. She is author of book Pelvic Anatomy Revisited and editor of book Practical Approach to Menopause Management. She's co-editor of book on FOXY, Ignite on RPL. She's written various chapters in reference books and FOXY books. She's faculty in national and international conferences. She's been awarded MS Signature International Award for phenomenal leadership in branding of PPH. And she has won first prize for paper presentation and gold medal at 31st AICC RCOG in 2017. So welcome, Dr. Kshama. Over to you. Over to you, Dr. Kshama. And
a very good evening to all of you, and welcome Dr. Sujata Dalvi for your talk on different study types. We've just had two very, very excellent talks, and my past very dear friend Suvarna and Dr. Geeta, excellent talks, and very important and significant talk on different study types to follow now by Dr. Sujata Dalvi. Dr. Sujata is consultant obstetrician and gynecologist at Mumbai, Global, Saifi, Bhatia, St. Elizabeth, Ruxmani lying in and Jain group of hospitals, non-clinical associate, Nauroji Wadia Maternity, Jagjeevan Ram Railway Hospital, assistant editor of Jogi Journal of Obs and Gynae of India, member of Managing Council of Mumbai Obs and Gynae Societies for last 15 years, first joint secretary of AMOX, that is Association of Maharashtra Obstetrician and Gynae Societies. So I welcome you, Dr. Sujata, for your talk.
Thank you, Dr. Pushpa Sethi, for a nice introduction.
And at an outset, I would like to thank Dr. Lakshmi Srikhande, Chairperson of Education Committee of Indian Menopause Society, for keeping such webinar and for giving me opportunity to talk on this subject of different types of studies. We didn't want to use the word research because research, as per our discussion, looks very big, and it generally, has a little bit heavier impact. So we wanted to keep it a little light, and that's the reason we thought let us have a topic as different types of studies as such, which means little bit in the same way, but without doing different type of studies, mind you, you will not be able to write any paper or anywhere as such. And without knowing what exactly are the different type of studies, you will not be able to peer review any of the articles if at all they are sent. So it is always better to know little bit. You need not know too much into the details, but some type of a research, different types of the studies, it's always better to have a little knowledge about the whole thing. So I would like to share my screen.
Yeah, we can see.
Yes.
Good.
One second. So different types of studies. What exactly is a medical research? I've used the word research because little bit we should know what exactly is a research. So as a human being, we are very curious. We always keep on asking questions all the time. We want to know a little bit more about whatever little that we know. So research is basically a formal way of going about asking the questions and to increase the knowledge about something which we don't know or something which is not known to us. So research, I mean, searching for the answers again and again means you're asking for the answers again and again. And that's why it is known as in researching. And it's a systematic and a scientific way of carrying out a study. So there are different types of studies, and it's a form of a systematic inquiry which contributes to your knowledge. It's an art and science of asking a question and securing a particular type of a knowledge. And this is what the study or the research has been given the definition by Thomas Berger. And all research, mind you, whatever type of studies that we carry out, they are all process of an inquiry as such. So what are the different principles of the scientific studies or the study that we try and carry out? It should be of a good quality. It should be systematic. It should have some purpose. You can't just randomly carry out a study as such. It should be very well organized. It should be critical. Whatever may be the results that you get it, you should try and evaluate critically. It should be analytical. That is, you compare your group with something which will have a normal thing. So that is known as an analytical. One should be able to communicate whatever findings that you have got it in your study effectively to the others so that the others understand what exactly you are trying to say. And it should be assertive. That is, it should report the things that others may not want to hear. Mind you, you may not always get a positive result. That does not mean that you try and twist and try and alter the results. You try and communicate whatever you have got it, but reason it out why you have got such results. So why should we carry out such type of a study as such, or why should we carry out such type of a research? It's a clinical and a scientific information which differs in the aim and the method. You should have some investigations and the techniques, and there are different designs, and you should then try to analyze the experiments which you're carrying out. Then the same thing should be put in a scientific paper, because without writing or without putting it up in the paper, people will not know what exactly you're doing it. Whatever little research that you have done it, you should be able to present it at a scientific meeting or a scientific session or a conference. Then only the others will be able to know. But should also able to assess the scientific paper critically in case somebody else has done a research and it comes to you for a critical evaluation. And a high degree of research is always a necessary, or it's a must for any higher degrees like master's degree or even PhD. You have to have what we call it as a research or a thesis as such. So why is there a search for a knowledge, and how do you get it? You collect the data, you find out the information, you find out the facts, whatever it is, and then you want to increase the knowledge about a particular subject, and that is what is known as an advancement of a knowledge. And the study spiral is, you select a particular topic, you find out a method whereby which whatever topic that you have selected, how about gathering the information about the same thing? You read the literature review which is there, you collect the data about whatever little study that you have carried out, you analyze your data. If you don't know to analyze it, you can give it to the statistician. He or she will be able to tell you whether it is significant or non-significant. Mind you, even if it is non-significant, you try and reason out why it is not significant. Maybe the data is too small or whatever it may be. Then you write up whatever you find out and you just put it on paper, how you have gone about, what was your reasoning, and that's how you can communicate whatever you have done it to the others. Otherwise it is difficult to for the others to make out what exactly you are doing it. Now, what are the classifications of different types of the studies? One is a primary study and the second one is secondary study. Primary study means it's an original study, and most of the postgraduates are expected to do the original research or original study, which is a must as one of the topics for the dissertation. Now, what exactly is a secondary study? Secondary study is also a type of a research or also a different type of a study, which is a desk study, mind you, in which what do? You don't do research or you don't do study yourself, but you collect the studies which are done by different people, but of the similar types. You try and find out the summary of it after collecting the whole thing, and then you try and synthesize and then find out whether are you coming to any conclusion or no. So this type of a study, which is a secondary study where the others have done it, but you're collecting the data, you're collecting and then formulating a certain type of a conclusion. That is what is known as a meta-analysis, whereby which you contrast and combine the results. You take different type of studies, you identify a particular type of a problem, and then come to a therapeutic effectiveness or whether this type of a study will be useful or no. And that is what is known as a secondary research or a meta-analysis. The commonest group or the commonest study that we find in the journal is the Cochrane review, and most of us always refer to the Cochrane review, whereby which you will come to know what exactly the Cochrane review is saying. So this is, mind you, it's a secondary research whereby which others have done the original type of a study, but you are only analyzing whatever is there which has been published or which is available. Now, coming to the original type of the studies, there are two type of studies in our medical field. One is an observational study, that is you only try and observe. Second was in an experimental study where you try and experiment, you try and intervene. Now, observation studies could be of another two types. One is only descriptive. Descriptive means whatever you're observing, you just describe. And second one is an analytical. Analytical means whatever you're observing, you describe, but compare it with something which is a core group as such, which does not have a particular type of a disease. That is why when you have a two comparison group, it's known as an analytical studies. Analytical studies are of different types. One is a cohort studies, case control studies, and a cross-sectional. I'll come to it little later. Experimental studies could be a randomized or a non-randomized, and randomized could be either a control studies or an uncontrolled studies. You need not go too much into the details. Non-randomized also a little control studies and an uncontrolled studies. And control studies could be blinded or unblinded. Blinded means nobody knows, neither the person who is taking part into the research nor the chief investigator knows what exactly is a medicine or what exactly is being given to this patient. So that is known as a total blinded. Unblinded means the investigator knows, but the patient or the one who is taking part in research does not know what a type of a research that he or she is going to undergo. Now, coming to the primary type of a study or an original type of a study, in an experimental study, you allot and assign. So that is totally in the hands of a chief investigator. Means the one, suppose if I'm investigating, I exactly know which type of a patients I would be selecting, which type of a things I would be assigning to what. So exactly that is in the control of an investigator. Randomized means you balance the risk in the both groups as such. And basically, if it's an it's a Supreme Court of an epidemiological research. That is, suppose if you're carrying out an experimental research, then randomized control trial is one of the best type of a trial that one can carry out. Coming to an observational exercise, as what I told you, whereby which you only try and observe. When you're trying to observe, mind you, the allotment and assignment is not under the control of an investigator. Means you're only trying to observe. So me as an investigator, I have selected, say, hypertensive patients, and I've selected uric acid level. Then both are not in my hands. I've only selected the hypertensive patient. So that is not in my hands. So basically, this is not under the control of an investigator. It is considered as a natural or a non-experimental, because you're not carrying out an experiment. You're only trying to merely observe what is being happening as such. So basically, as an investigator, you identify, you observe, you record, you classify, you analyze without interfering into the course of event. Course of events are already happening. You just don't interfere into the course of events, and then you try and correlate your treatment and exposure or exposure to the treatment, and that is what is known as an observational type of studies. And mind you, in an OBGYN journal, about 80% of the articles which are published in our OBGYN journal are mainly observational studies. Experimental studies are very few so far as OBGYN journal and the articles are concerned. Coming to a little bit about the experiment, that it should be, experiments are carried out onto the basic things as such. It could be either an animal studies, it could be a cell study, it could be a biochemical, it could be genetic, it could be a physiological, it could be a drugs and the material. Everybody nowadays knows the COVID-19 vaccine and the studies which were going on. These are all experimental studies as such. And sometimes even you need to carry out experimental studies on an imaging procedures like CT or MRI as such. So these are basically or an experimental studies. Now, what do we do in an experimental studies? These could be either a clinical trial or it could be a field trial whereby which you select a group of an individual. Now, these group of an individuals are the volunteers. Only flaw of this is these volunteers are the healthy individuals basically, because you don't take somebody who is not healthy as such. So volunteers, whichever select group of the volunteers that have been selected for a particular experiment, they do not represent the general population. So whatever effects or whatever side effects per se you find it in a volunteer, it may not be exactly replicable so far as general population is concerned, but you roughly have an idea of what exactly would be the effect on the general population. There is phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3 trial. These have actually added, because there's so much of controversy going on about Covaxin phase 3 trial, not this, phase 1 this and that. So that's why I thought let me just put a little bit on this. Phase 1 trial, whereby which the volunteers are only up to the 100 in number as such, and whatever trial they are being, it is being conducted, they have been given either a therapeutic dose or at times it's or even a sub-therapeutic dose at times. That's because this is the first phase of trial. So one does not know the trial has been conducted on an animal. They found no side effect as such, but this is the first human being trial. And that is the reason there is a possibility that there could be a usage of a sub-therapeutic dose in phase 1 trial. Only after the phase 1 trial where they get 70% or more than that positive results, that they would go to a phase 2 trial, whereby which they take volunteers within 500. That is, there should be at least 70% of positive result and the volunteers are up to 500. In something like COVID vaccine, where they were a little bit in a hurry, they have combined at times phase 1 and phase 2 trial. Ideally, it should go one after the other as such. And after completing phase 2 trial, then only you go to the phase 3 trial, whereby which you take it up to few hundreds or even up to thousands. And this phase 3 trial, mind you, need not be conducted only at one place, but it can be conducted at various places. It can be conducted in India, it can be conducted in some other countries, or even within India, it can be conducted at different places, and then you combine the result. And because the phase 3 trial was going on, Bharat Biotech was little delayed in giving their Covaxin, because some people made noise that their phase 3 trial was not yet over as such. Okay, so this is about the experiment here, whereby you find out, select, you allocate, you observe the duration of the studies, you find out the effect and the outcome, find out the compliance, find out the statistics, find out the analysis, find out the interpretation, and then only put a particular drug into the market as such. Now, clinical interventional study, whereby which you actually try and use a particular type of a therapeutic into an human being or into an individual, or actual use to find out its efficacy and safety, in which you can use either a drug, a particular drug, you can use a particular type of a treatment, you can use a particular surgical therapy, you can use a particular device like a stent, it could be an acupuncture, it could be a psychosocial, it could be rehabilitation, a diet, or a different type of a vaccine. This type of an interventional trial needs an ethical as well as legal permission as such. The ideal would be a randomized blind trial, whereby which not only the person who is carrying out, or the chief investigator, even the person who is taking part does not know what type of a medicine he or she would be getting it as such, and you'll get the correct result as such. You need to monitor this study implementation, collect the data, and then come out with a particular results. Randomized trials could be a parallel crossover cluster. You need not go into the details. The advantage of randomized trial is it eliminates the bias, balances of known and unknown factors are balanced as such, and the probability theory also may come out. Randomized control trial could be a single blind, double blind, or a triple blind as such, and you try and follow up a patient and you get the correct result as such. So this is all about the experiment as such. Little bit you should know about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trial as such. Now coming to the observational studies, as what I said, almost about 80% of the original articles in OBGYN are observational studies. So little bit you should know about the observational studies. As I told you, it is observational studies are of two types. One is a descriptive, whereby which you just describe whatever you have been observing, but there is no comparison group, mind you. You're just observing something. So you're describing a phenomenon as they are existing. Whereas analytical means you have a comparison group. You're comparing your group with something which is normal. That is what is known as an analytical thing, whereby which you have a statistical association and whereby which you can compare this to a particular thing. So analytical studies have got a major significance as compared to only descriptive. Of course, descriptive also has a particular role, but in a different type of thing. So coming to a descriptive, before we go on to the analytical, descriptive means it's a non-analytical thing, whereby which you can observe a particular type of a study or a disease at an individual level. There are certain type of disease which are quite rare, which are not very common, and these type of a disease can be studied at an individual level, and these type of a studies are known as a descriptive studies. If they are studied at an individual level, we can call it as a case report. You can report it as a case report, where something which is unusual, but something which you want to report it or which you want others to know, you can put it as a case report as such. Case series means similar type of an unusual thing in number of 4 or more, but they're not so much in quantity or so much in this thing that you can put it as an original paper. You can put it as a case series as such. Cross-sectional studies are one, whereby which you have a exposure and the effect. Both are studied at the same time. You don't wait for it to happen as such. Both are studied at the same time. That's known as a cross-sectional studies. And surveillance means you want to find out that in this particular season, in this particular city, what was the surveillance or what was the incidence of malaria, or maybe what was the, what just now we are into the COVID phase, what is the incidence of COVID in this particular area in this particular season. So that is what is known as a surveillance as such. Now, how do you carry out this type of a study? You collect the information. Now, collection of the information is obtained from the group of an individual, or it can be obtained from a particular population as such. And if you get it from a particular population, you can correlate it in the type of a health survey. That is, suppose if a certain type of disease is present in a particular type of a population, then you try and find out why it is so. And if there are some triggering factors, you can always come back and reduce the triggering factors so that you can bring about a proper or a better outcome in that particular type of a disease. Ecological correlation means a particular type of a disease is particularly common in a particular geographical area. That is African countries, Southeast Asian countries, developed countries. So that way you try and find out the prevalence of a particular disease, incidence of a particular disease, a geographical distribution, whether it is particularly common in a particular season. If at all it is common in a monsoon season, how can we prevent it? So this is how we come to know that by knowing what exactly is a descriptive study, you try and find out the incidence of those particular studies and whether any preventive measures can be taken as such, like spraying of insecticides, spraying of certain pesticides as such in a particular season, more common in monsoon because incidence is more common. So this is how you try and prevent it. So it has more of a preventive and a social aspect as such. In a descriptive study, very easy to just put forth 5 basic questions which should be answered: who has the disease, what is the condition or the disease which is being studied, why is the disease or a condition being studied has come, because of what are the basically what are the etiological factors, when is this condition more common, is it more common in a particular season as such, is it more common in a particular area as such, and where does or does not this disease or the condition arise, whether it is more common in a particular geographical area, and that way you can lay more stress in that particular area so as to curb down the disease as such. What exactly is the surveillance? Surveillance, you want to have a watchful surveillance over the community to find out whether a particular disease is more common over the community. Right now, we are all under surveillance so far as COVID-19 is concerned, whereby which the government or the municipal corporation in a big cities, they are collecting the data as such, they are analyzing the data, they are trying to find out interpretation of a particular health data. Why are they doing it? so that they can plan it out, they can implement, and they can evaluate so as to have a better public or better health outcome as such. Now, there are two types of a surveillance. One is an active surveillance, whereby which the authorities who are in charge of carrying out surveillance are making effort on their own part and then trying to find out the different number of cases, why this is happening, where exactly is this, and they are giving daily reports, or they are employing specific people to find out the particular type of a surveillance. That is what is known as an active surveillance, which is being carried out nowadays because of the second surge of a COVID. There's something known as an passive surveillance, whereby which they will not come and ask you, but they expect you to go and report. It's like municipal corporation. At the end of 1 month, they will tell you how many sonographies have been done, which are under that PCPNDT Act, or in case you have a patient of an H1N1, you need to report it. They will not come and ask you. So that is what is known as a passive surveillance, whereby which you go and report it to the municipal corporation or whichever is the health authority. They will gather all the data from whatever the data which has been given it to them, and then they try and carry out surveillance. That is known as a passive surveillance. So active surveillance and a containment is basically plays a pivotal role. Here we saw smallpox because smallpox has been eradicated, but basically active surveillance and containment plays a very important role so far as an stoppage or so far as the control of a particular disease is concerned. All know about the COVID status. Ecological study is made, there is more focus onto a particular population as such. I've already told you a particular geographical distribution, even a socio-economic characteristics, a particular religion, or even a particular ethnicity, or even a socio-economic class of a particular patient. You will find differential distribution of disease in a different types of a group as such. You will find the correlation between the two, and then you can always try and mend these factors and try and find out whether some solution can be brought out so as to decrease a particular type of a disease. So basically, descriptive studies are very important so far as monitoring of a health of a population is concerned. It's a very big population. It plays a very important role in a healthcare planning. One need to develop a hypothesis, find out what exactly is the cause, and then try and test it in an analytical research. So once we have found out a particular disease, which is very common in a particular population, now try and do a research or try and carry out some study in an analytical group, comparing with the disease group and a healthy group, and then try and come to a conclusion where a particular type of a treatment will be helpful for this particular type of a disease or no. So coming to an analytical study, which is very important, which is a hallmark, basically there are presence of at least two groups. I've already told you one which you're going to study, and second one is a comparison group, which is a very healthy group as such. You try and identify and find out the relationship between an exposure and the health outcome, or an effect of an intervention and the exposure on an outcome. To try and find out and see whether is there any connection exists between the exposure and the outcome as such, or there is no connection which exists as such, and then you try and find out whether can you do something about it or no. Okay, so to determine whether it is descriptive or an analytical, one only has to ask only one question: whether two groups, if there are two groups, means you are doing analysis, means it's an analytical study. If it's only observation and there's no comparative group, it means you are carrying out a descriptive study. Remember, both are observation, means you're only observing, but if you're comparing, it becomes analytical. If you're not comparing, it becomes a descriptive. Now, analytical studies are of three types as such. One is a cohort studies. The word looks little big, but it is very easy to understand. Cohort studies means you're starting study today, that is in 2021. You're moving forwards directionally as such. You will find out its outcome after 2 years, 3 years in future. That is a futuristic. That is known as a cohort study. Okay. In a case control study, you are starting the study in now in 2021, but you're going backwards to find out was there any effect of that particular thing, and that's the reason you are having this type of a outcome in 2021. So when you're going backwards, that is retrospective, it's known as a case control study as such. And a cross-sectional means you are neither moving forwards nor moving backwards. You are in a present situation. You are trying only to correlate two factors both at the same time. It has got no futuristic, it has no past. That is, you are just in the present. That is what is known as a cross-sectional study as such. Okay. So in an analytical study, again, I'm repeating, you're beginning with the exposure. You're starting in 2021. You want to follow it up after 2 years, 3 years, whatever may be the outcome, whatever studies that you have decided. That is known as a cohort study. Here I have given an example of an adolescent PCOD. They are in adolescent age group, but they have PCOD. After 10 years, you want to find out how many of them were infertile as such. Okay. So you're starting now, but after 10 years, you'll come to know what exactly would be the outcome. Similarly, in a case control study, you are starting now, that is beginning with the outcome, but then you want to look back and find out, okay, why is this there? Is it because of some past thing that had happened that you are getting this present uh, observation? So that is what is known as a case control study. You're looking at all infertile women who have come to your OPD in last 2 years or 3 years. You want to go back and find out were they diagnosed or how many of them had a PCO before that. So that is what you're going backwards. Okay. So that is known as a case control study. Whereas in cross-sectional, you try and find out exposure and outcome both at the same time. That you have a patient of a pregnancy-induced hypertension and you're trying to find out serum uric acid levels, and versus patients who are normotensive and find out serum uric acid levels, whether you find any difference or no. So there is no going backwards or forward. You're just trying to study a particular thing at that particular time. That is what is known as in cross-sectional studies. Now coming to the cohort studies, where you're going forwards as such, where in cohort study you're trying and finding out the individuals as such prior to the appearance of a particular disease. You have selected that all patients are PCOD. So you have selected those particular group. You have decided that I will take 50 patients of PCOD and the other group would be 50 patients of non-PCOD as such. And then after 10 years or after 5 years, whatever may be your study period, you try and find out how many of them would be infertile as such. So this is just a diagram which I have shown, whereby which you are trying to study the factors which are present, factors which are absent. This is your comparison group. You find out whether a particular disease is present or no, a particular disease is not present or no. So you're beginning today and you will get the results later on. Okay. So that is what it is about. And then how do you present your cohort studies? You don't have to remember so much. I'm just trying to explain. Even if you don't remember, it is fine. As long as you know what exactly is cohort, that is good for me. But cohort study results are generally put it as a relative risk as such. That is a ratio of an incidence of a rate of an index subjects to that of a control as such. Very easy to remember. If relative risk is 1, means it is equal, it means that the incidence among the exposed and non-exposed is more or less the same. It means there is no association between PCO and infertile. Okay. So that is if the RR or the relative ratio risk is 1, it means there is no correlation. If the relative risk is less than 1, it means there is a protective effect of an exposure. But if the relative risk is more than 1, it means that there is a exposure and patients who are exposed are at a higher risk as such. Okay. So if the relative risk is more than 1, it means there is a positive exposure. If it is less than 1, it is negative. And if it is 1, then there is no risk as such. In cohort studies, what are the advantages of cohort studies is there is no selection bias, because you have selected all patients who have got a particular disease or who have got PCOD or whatever it is. Ethically, it is very safe because you are not intervening into anything. You have only selected the patient. Criteria are also very well standardized as such, and you can actually find out what exactly is the incidence, and you're only observing. You're not intervening to any treatment or anything. You're only observing. So that's the advantage. The disadvantage of cohort is it is time consuming and it is little on the expensive side. If you are carrying out study for 3 years, 5 years, it may be little time consuming. Sometimes the finances may not allow you to continue with the study as such. If you have taken a large number as such, then there are some administrative logistics as such. And because it's a long-term follow-up, there are at times patients too lost for follow-up, or sometimes they change their residential address, sometimes they don't come for follow-up, and it is very difficult to track these patients as such. Cohort study is not very useful if the incidence of a particular disease is very low as such, or if it's a rare disease and it is little difficult to do it as a cohort, then it is better to pick it up as one of the case reports or even a case series rather than something like cohort, because it's very difficult to study when it is very small in number as such. There could be sometimes overexposure of a study in a particular group, and one cannot shift it to a diagnostic center. So one has to come out with some logistics. Otherwise, I've seen quite a few cohort studies that have started, but because of some logistics, the studies have stopped as such, and they've not been able to complete the studies. So that's a disadvantage of a cohort study as such. Retrospective cohort is just a word which is there in the different types of studies, and that is the reason I've just put it. This type of a cohort study is feasible only in a multinational hospital where the data is computerized and they have lots many data as such. They have so much of an existing information as such that sometimes the studies have not been carried out as such. And there are some people who want to carry out a particular type of a studies. Then what do? You are in 2021. Okay. Now you want to know in 2015 a particular type of a disease has occurred. You want to know its outcome in 2021, but you are sitting in 21 right now. But you are conducting study, starting study in trying to look at the study from 2015 and then coming to 21. So you are still progressing forwards. Though you are in 21, but you are studying from 15 to 21. So you are still progressing forwards, and that is what is known as a retrospective cohort as such. It means you are basically in the present tense, or you are there in 21, but you want to study from 15 to 21. So you're still going forwards, and that is the reason it is known as a retrospective cohort study. Such type of a study is feasible only if you have a data which is computerized and the data which has not been analyzed. And if then you want to come out with something new, you can always go back and find out what exactly it is. Prospective cohort is the same thing. That is retrospective cohort. You come to 21, the same individual. Now you find out what is its another effect or some another exposure or the other effect. So that you want to do it for next 3 years. So that is known as an prospective. Means you have come from 15 to 21. Now from 21 you want to go up to 24. That is known as an prospective cohort. You need not break your head into this. This is just one of the different types of the studies. It's not very common as such to carry out retrospective cohort or prospective cohort until and unless you have so much of data which is available on your computer and you have that much of patience to come and dig out everything. Then only such type of a study is possible. Now coming to case control study that you are in a present tense. You want to go back and find out whether was this responsible for whatever outcome you are having it today. Okay. So both exposure and outcome are already there before the onset of the study, but you want to study an outcome and go backwards to find out whether was this exposure responsible for today's outcome or no. So that is what is known as a case control study. The commonest example is patient of a deep venous thrombosis or DVT. You want to find out how many of them were OC pill users, how many of them were smokers. You have a patient of a lung cancer. You want to find out how many of them were smokers. So that way, if you find out what are the precipitating factor, and if you feel that such factors are have causing health hazards, you can always impose a particular type of a warning. Like on all cigarette packets, it is written that there is a high risk of a lung cancer. This is basically a health issue to prevent a particular type of a thing. How they have come out with it? They have come out with it only after undergoing a case control study. So basically, retrospective, you use a control and the comparison group, and thereby you try and find out a risk of a particular disease, even on a lifestyle, on an occupation, whether it is connected to any genetic thing, whether it is connected to a particular type of a diet or even an environment. So coming to the diagram, you are starting here, but you want to go backwards to find out whether whatever exposure that you have got it, whatever outcome that you have got it, whether is it because of a particular type of an exposure as such. You put it into a two groups as such, and then you try and find out the odds ratio as such. If at all you find out the odds ratio, if odds ratio is 1, it means there is no association between the exposure and the outcome, or between the outcome and the exposure. If odds ratio is more than 1, it means there is a positive association. If it is less than 1, it means it's a negative association as such. Such type of studies are very useful, especially a thalidomide tragedy, where the pregnant women in the first trimester had taken thalidomide in the first trimester because of excessive vomiting, and they found that the newborns which are born to the women who had taken thalidomide had fetal anomalies. Now, you can't carry out an experiment by giving thalidomide to the mother and then finding out whether the fetal anomaly. Such experiments cannot be carried out. So in these patients, you go back and find out that whichever babies which were born with some fetal anomalies, you go back and find out what the mothers have taken, and that's how they come to a conclusion that thalidomide was responsible, and that's how they rejected or they banned thalidomide. So such type of studies are useful to carry out or to prevent such type of a mishap as such. Okay. So case control studies are relatively quick and they are less expensive. You require few subjects and there's not much of a risk because you're not intervening anything as such, but you need a suitable investigator to find out. Also, it is also useful to find out a rare type of a disease as such, like, presence of leukemia in an adolescent. Leukemia, you don't find in an adolescent age group, you find it in an elderly, but these are the rare diseases which can be found out in a case control study as such. There is no ethical problem as such, and one can always generate a particular type of a hypothesis, even if it's a rare disease as such. It's not a problem. One can also examine multiple type of a risk factors, like a whatever may be the different type of a risk factors, like presence of physical activity in a patient of a myocardial infarction, or presence of smoking in a patient of a myocardial infarction, and you find out exactly the relation between the two. The limitation could be a selection bias as such, then it is inefficient for a rare event. Rare event, you can't have a case control studies as such. You can't have a randomization in a case control study. It cannot measure the particular incidence. It can only give you a relative risk as such. And the expected outcome at times may be harmful as such, as what I've mentioned in thalidomide tragedy as such. And that is the reason one need to take a quick decision and stop it there and there, so as to prevent a health hazard in future as such. Now coming to the last one, that is a cross-sectional study, whereby which the exposure and outcome are both studied at the same time. You're not waiting for the outcome to come, or you're not waiting for the exposure, what exactly it is. You're just trying to study both the things at the same time as such. You try and find out cause and effect relationship as such. You try and find out what exactly is the prevalence rate, and a single examination of a particular cross section of a population and what particular time, and you generally get an outcome as such. In this type of a cross-sectional study, you can just directly observe something that becomes a descriptive, but if you take a comparison group, then it becomes an analytical study. The advantage of cross-section is it is quick and cheap. You don't need many resources as such. You can study the entire population because you are studying it one at a time only. You're not calling them again and again. They're just coming once to you. You're just studying a particular type of a thing, and that's the end of everything. Okay. So there, you don't have to follow it up, or you don't have to go back and find out as such. So basically, this is generally useful to find out an incidence of a particular thing, like incidence of hypertension in a postmenopausal women, or incidence of a particular type of an investigations in a patient of a PIH. So that is what you will get an advantage by carrying out a cross-sectional study as such. Again, it's a diagram whereby which it shows you are trying to study a particular thing. You find out whether the patient has a particular disease or no. If there's no disease, means it becomes an analytical study. It means it's a cross-sectional study, whether the factor is present or it is absent, whether the factor is present or it is absent. So you just put it into a graph like this, and then you try and find out as such, and then whether it is correlated or no. If it is not correlated, you just try and find out whether comparison group with your group, whether there is any connection or no. If you find there is any connection, it means your comparison group and the group which you are studying, if you find any correction, whether there are any corrective measures which can be taken or no. So that is the advantage of having a cross-sectional study. The common applications of a cross-sectional study, you can find out the risk factors, and in case you can pick up a risk factor, then we can find out some method by which the risk factors can be reduced, or you identify high risk patients so they can be kept under strict vigilance as compared to the rest of the patients as such. Then you can also, cross-sectional study is useful in trying and finding out the diagnostic or screening test. It's also useful in planning a health program, and in case there is a disease outbreak at that time, then it is useful in trying to find out what could be the investigation. Just as we have it for COVID, we have RT-PCR, we have RAT, and now we have HRCT. So we have come to that particular thing, that these three things are a must. so far as making a diagnosis of a COVID positive patient is concerned. So that is because they've carried out a cross-sectional study as such. They've not compared it with the normal patients as such, but they have carried out and they have come to a particular conclusion. Now, coming to the disadvantage of a cross-section, it's a weak observational study. Means it will only tell you a prevalence, but it will not tell you an incidence as such. Prevalence means you are even including the survivors as such, and in prevalence, the proportion of a persons who are present at that particular condition and at that particular time, all cases are included in prevalence. Means the old one. If you want to know about hypertension, then whichever patients have got hypertension now, and whichever patients have had hypertension even before that, everybody is included. So that is what is known as in prevalence. Whereas incidence means you are taking a proportion or a rate of a person who have developed a particular type of a disease at that particular time. So that is what is known as an incidence. This is just from PSM point of view, that you should know what exactly is the prevalence and the incidence. The disadvantage of a cross-sectional study is that the incident is that rare or a fatal or a short duration of study are little difficult to be detected. So far as cross-sectional studies are concerned, one need not know the details, or one will not know the details of a history of a particular type of a disease as such, and a temporal sequence of an exposure and the outcome, or the effect and exposure and the outcome will be difficult to determine in a cross-sectional study, because you are studying a particular individual or a particular thing only at that particular time. What would be its effect later on cannot be studied in a cross-sectional. That will be studied only in a cohort as such. Hence, to summarize, so far as different types of studies are concerned, the purpose to know different type of a study is to make it known to the scientific community. Mind you, you may be very good. You have carried out so much of a good type of even a clinical thing. You have treated so many patients in a particular type of a thing, or in a particular series of a thing, or a particular type of a surgery. Until and unless you put it before a scientific community, either you try and read it, or you try and present a paper, or you try and send it to the article, the people like us or the rest of the people will not know what exactly you're doing it. So whatever small, however small it may be, you may feel it, it is always better to let the others know what exactly you're doing it, provided it is done in a proper scientific fashion as such. So purpose is to make it known to a scientific community. The paper presentation in a scientific forum is very common, either at a seminar or at a conference as such. The best option would be a publication. Mind you, even at a conference, not many people are able to attend it as such. Nowadays, because of webinar, people are logging in. But publication, it reaches more to the people as compared to the presentation as such. And mind you, once an article is published, that article always remains in the print. It gets archived also, and it is accessible to the people for years and years. So even after 20-25 years, if somebody wants to flip through, that person may be able to get through the article, provided that person has an interest in that particular subject in which the paper has been written as such. So the reach for the published articles are manifold, and nowadays we have an e-journal. So those articles will remain on an e-journal for years and years to come. And hence publication is a desired endpoint of any studies, mind you. Without publication, without presentation, nobody will know how good you are in your study as such. So thank you so much. And I hope it was not very taxing.
It was wonderful, ma'am.
Thoroughly enjoyed. थोड़ा सा सिर के ऊपर से गया पर
I know, थोड़ा सा जाता है, but it's okay. Little bit, if you know, it's fine. And if I'm able to convince little
no,
bit,
but
I
it
think
was eye opener. I mean, really good to know the different types of studies, and I am happy. And you are so fluent, Sujata.
this PICSEP program, and for postgraduate students, we have to take it because we have to thrust it upon them that they have to publish at least one or two before they leave the government hospital, you know, before they go into the private practice. So it's always better that we have to thrust it upon them, you know.
Shama, you can conclude, then we will stop the recording.
Yeah.
You conclude, and then we will stop.
Very good evening to all of you. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Lakshmi to make me a part of such an academic feast, and along with the stalwarts of IMS. I'm really feel very honored today. Thanks a lot, Lakshmi. And thanks, Vidya, for nice introduction.
first of all, I would like to congratulate Dr. Darvi. What an excellent talk, and what she has so nicely elaborated all the types of studies and what are the merits of it and what are the demerits of it. She's very nicely covered thoroughly each and every aspect of the study type. And as she rightly said, I'm also a postgraduate teacher, and in the Maharashtra we have this PPP model. And in this PPP model, in the last year, they have to publish one paper, and it is must before they leave the college. So, and right from the, as you all know, we have to, when we have to publish one paper, we have to start the study properly right from the tenure, when they start the tenure. And that time we all do the research methodology workshop for them. But kitna jata unke isme at the first JR1 ship mein, because other time they come like a zombie, they sleep and they go.
I know,
But
I know, and they're more worried about clearing their exams rather than all this, you know.
exactly, they are least bothered. And so this is the really problem of all colleges students, postgraduates, because in government very high workload, and they are really not bothered. But for the post of SR or lecturer, they need to have a paper at least on their name. That is also matters a lot. So we have to plan this study, because we should get a proper reliable result, and it has to be planned right carefully, rightly from the start itself. So I really congratulate Devi madam for an excellent talk, covered very nicely, thoroughly. And I hope all the PGs, I have told them to join today. Hope they have joined and they have listened to you. Their ideas will have been cleared by this time. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Lakshmi.
Dr. Lakshmi, can I add something?
Yeah, Doctor.
Dr. Lakshmi, I just wanted to congratulate Dr. Sujata. You have briefed the types. I tell you, it was looking as if it was on your tips. My God, how quickly and how briefly you have told us the various types of designs. I just want to share with the postgraduates that randomized controlled trials, they still remain the most trustworthy, the most reliable studies. See, but and once they are interventional, they are not easy to do. I just want to share that Indian Menopause Society did one RCT. It was a randomized, multicentric and double-blinded. I just want to tell the postgraduates what is double-blinded. Dr. Meeta was the chief investigator, and she did a multicentric from few cities all over across the country. And as co-investigators, we just had to take 10 normal, healthy postmenopausal females. You know, many centers could not do it because it is so difficult to find first 10 healthy postmenopausal females. Then we had to give them one type of lycopene for 6 months. See how difficult it is when it is a double blind. Neither I know nor my patient knows what I am going to give her. And then they were supposed to